everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and this episode is very important and very special because after a long time, Dr. Talib Rafai joined with World Talent Economy Forum. We get a lot of questions from our audience. What is Dr. Talib's? Even today, some professor from Singapore they come and visit our World Talent Economy Forum office, and they are very interested to know more about his situation and everything. So we are happy Dr. Talib joined with World Talent Economy Forum after a long time. We really miss you. And we have our world famous speaker, Professor David Smith, those who regularly support World Talent Economy Forums, and especially our student community get a lot of information from him. Today we discuss on social blockchain networks. First, I would like to give chance Professor David Smith.
Thank you so much, Sharif. The topic today is a very interesting one, and it's really social blockchain. And the social media affects many of us in the world, and it's a growing trend. If I go back and look back in 2010, only about 10% of Americans were on social media, and it was largely a domain for very young people with songs and stuff. For example, with MySpace, which was a big one back then. By 2017, that percentage has grown over 80%. So very rapid growth as we look at social media. And it has risen approximately 13% year over year, with hundreds of new platforms and others coming on. But even though social media isn't going to go anywhere, a lot of people are recognizing the impact of social media. We know in the United States with Cambridge Analytics, how they use Facebook to begin to manipulate elections and others. We see other places in social media being used as target grounds to target people, to hijack money and things from them as well. Um, and it's even beginning to look at some of our mental health. Back in 2017, there was a study in that 29% of the people surveyed admitted that they were addicted to social media, and and that social media really has challenges with self-image and anxiety and other things, particularly with young people. But several of things have been done to improve social media. And one of these is the use of blockchain as part of the social media equation. And it's being used to really get some of the spammers out. Part of the reason Elon Musk backed out of the purchase of Twitter was the number of fake chat box type of accounts on it. So they were not even real people, and they were controlling a large part of the population. So what the slide that's up on the screen are some of the ways that blockchain can be used to transform social media. And one of them is removing the user as the product. And part of the reason to do that is in 2018, it was said that people harvesting data from Facebook is said to impact over 87 million people. And I've seen so many people come up with fake accounts. I personally have had my account stolen before on some of the media parts. But if you begin to look at it, the one of the brokerage firms, Axiom, reported over $800 million of profit from people scamming the information from like Facebook and others and selling it. So what this is doing is trying to make the user and their data more secure. It's trying to make it there in the blockchain because of its transparency and its immutability and thing is one way to begin to do that. A second thing is you can use the blockchain for better control over content. And uh, it you can see that in many different ways. Out of one of the court cases in 2014, it was revealed that Facebook manipulated almost 700,000 new users' news feeds to get an emotional response. Well, that's not the way you should have a technology done. And we see that with how we post positive likes and unlikes and stuff. But blockchain is a way where, because it is a distributed ledger that goes with your account, you can control that more. You can see more information about. Even though blockchain has some security challenges with it, it will improve the security of almost all the social media systems. Uh, the Particularly in areas such as data collection, uh, the ability to keep your content your own and others. Uh, a big issue with a lot of the social media is freedom of speech. And we see that vary tremendously country to country. But blockchain can be used for that. You can use it to a way to secure in app in the social media payment systems. The next one on the chart, the compensation for posted influencers, is actually a big one because it's really hard to use social media and to make money off of it. You have to do an ask, you have to, in most instances, direct them out. But um, the use of blockchain and the cryptocurrencies and other currencies, and now banks and others beginning to show up on the blockchain, can be combined in social media and used very friendly there. But YouTube has done a good job of being able to let people monetize their content. Most of the other social media has not. And there's some really interesting startups working on that one and trying to put it in a threaded, rewarded way using the blockchain. Um, we all heard in the last several years globally about the use of fake media, and fake media is rife on social media. And the recent survey said that in Europe, over 77% of the people believe that major media outlets report what can be qualified as fake news because our ability to collect it because of all the social media is so great. And while blockchain enabled solutions to this problem aren't flawless, they really are a way to help improve the Wild West we have out there in content, and will provide blockchain linked payments to users in exchange for the content. And by doing that, the quality of the content should be going up. Um, then the other two, you have freedom to access information. And because they're distributed across multiple nodes, it's almost hard to censor content that's on the blockchain. And it could be on one social media outlet or it could be on multiple social media programs. And if a user is able to purchase a blockchain token for that content, that information, that can further secure it. You can have verified markets. Myself and some of my friends, we have tried to purchase things out off of Facebook markets. And what we have found is a large percent of them are fake. And so again, using a blockchain to verify the marketplace is something that can be really help. And this blockchain for social media is really there. And we're beginning to see more and more in-app, in the social media applications and others where we can do it. But social media has proved really interesting in that we have declines in the basic social media. But when you go, for example, into Meta, into Facebook now, into some of the details, you can go and run other applications while you're within the social media. And this is a way that they are uh, replacing the dips in the base social by the media. And the last one is blockchain can be used to verify online identities. Uh, we spoke about metaverse governance and stuff, and one of the comments I made is I can have multiple identities in the metaverse, and no one knows which one is really me. Same thing as we look at all the other social medias as well too, is that we need to be able to identify who people are. Is it a real person? Is it a bot? Is it AI? Is it groups using an account to try to manipulate it, much like Cambridge Analytics did with a number of elections around the world a couple of years ago? So these are some of the major areas where blockchain is going to really change and transform social media. And they are ones that are not perfect, but we're at the very beginning stages of using these. So you will see a lot of opportunity for growth in each of these areas. Some of these are very specialized apps to do just a single function, and some others are companies trying to create a whole new social media construct that uses all of these as part of their design of the total social media construct. So a lot of opportunities there, Sharif.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Dr. Talib, what you want to share with our audience? Long time, our audience really miss you. And second things, how you we can integrate more with this social blockchain networks, how it can be helpful for the developing nations.
To talk about social media first. Social media is a blessing, whether we like it or not. I agree with Professor David that it has many problems, but so does any technology. Any new technology has problems. Now, we have heard Professor David talk about blockchain as a savior of the social media. Well, there is always a savior for something in technology. So I don't think that we could just blame social media for all our problems. Professor David, I think social media can has its own aspects, positive aspects. It wouldn't have developed if it didn't. But blockchain is one of the most clear positive aspects, positive signs of social media. That's for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one thing that I have in mind when we discussing about blockchain technologies and when we working with different progressive group, they think that from their research perspective, uh, in politics, in voting system, we can utilize blockchain technology for fair voting system. You are a politician. What do you think? Is it practically possible, or how these developing nations gonna accept this blockchain technology for voting system? Dr. Talib,
Professor David.
I request Dr. Talib to give this
Okay,
answer because you are politicians. Yeah.
okay, thank you. Thank you. I think that the use of social media for politics is limited use. It's not as widespread as many people think. But social media can verify that the authenticity of the information. That's all it can do. Now, I don't think that social media is to blame for the manipulation of elections. Manipulation of election is done by the evil people of the world, by people that want to see democracy disappear, not the social media. Social media is just a tool that's used. If there was no social media, there would be other tools to use to manipulate the election. That's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor David Smith, how we can utilize this blockchain technology more properly, and our major objective, train the youth communities, how they can get benefit if they develop their skills in this blockchain technology.
Well, blockchain technology is one that can underlie many applications. And there are some pretty consistent applications of it that can be used. Uh, the Today, most of the blockchains are fairly slow to develop. The process for building a blockchain has some challenges because which is one of its strengths and one of its weaknesses. because you have to build up a majority of blockchain nodes on it, and the majority of them have to agree before new content can be loaded and passed on. But that's also can be spoofed. So having students, universities begin to look at ways to make blockchain more scalable, uh, make it faster, a little bit more secure, are places there's a lot of work being done. And the other challenge with blockchains with social media is that social media on many of the instances, not Twitter, but many of the other ones, have a lot of media content. And uh, blockchains really need to become more scalable and faster if they're going to store that type of social media content, because it's inferior, it's mutable, and it really doesn't require a global agreement on its state. I mean, if I post a picture of a cat and Sharif claims it's my cat, how does the blockchain treat that? If I go and post a picture of uh, a piece of art, can other people who have it on the blockchain claim it's theirs as part of the blockchain as well? And in social media, that's going to be one of the challenges you begin to look at it. One of the other places we're seeing in social media blockchain happening is we're seeing blockchain and a offloaded peer-to-peer storage network combined, where the blockchain will be federated with the peer-to-peer storage. And you can use the best of both ones there. You can use the blockchain for the distributed ledger, and you can use the peer-to-peer storage for the actual large objects like videos and big graphics and things to do it. And because that is an emerging tree, it's a great opportunity for entrepreneurship. It's a great opportunity for students and professors to look at how you to solve that problem. The other place that is not solved in social media with blockchain yet is the decentralized social networks typically really struggle with how to monetize. And like I said earlier, some of the networks have put cryptocurrency into the design to attempt to monetize this. But then that runs up against a lot of local regulations in countries and others like that, and problems with banks and national banks. So the that is an area again ripe for innovation, ripe for research, and there's a downside in social networks where content is monetized. It's because users' behavior becomes transparent, driven by the monetization. And in some ways, with a lot of the social media accounts, you have your social media personality, personification, and you have your personification. And oftentimes those are different. And once I began to put that type of transparency driven by the blockchain into social media, that's going to suffer. I personally believe that topic is one that deserves a whole lot of university research from not just technology scientists, but from psychologists, from cultural anthropologists, and others like that to understand that difference, because social media is driving our cultures today. It's driving the way we react to each other. It's causing mental health issues in all of those areas. And so this is a ripe area for research and for innovation, Sharif.
Thank you, Professor. Dr. Talib Rafael, actually, we want to know more about your country. What's going on inside when we're discussing about Industry 4.0 developments, blockchain technology, AI, VR, and AR. What is happening inside Jordan? How does the technologies and the young generations working inside Jordan?
Actually, in Jordan, social media is under attack, just like Dr. David has just said, Dr. David Smith, because many people blame social media for much of the problems that we have. That's a fact. But the fact also is that it's not only social media, it's the facts. Politicians are not running the things in the right way. Social media is only there to expose them, expose everything. Now, it could be a source of fake news, that's for sure, because many people can believe social media, anything that happens in social media. But so does media altogether. Media is now a main medium where anybody can say anything at all. And it's up to you, the listener, to decide what you want to take and what you don't want to take. I think social media is the same as that. And in Jordan, we have that problem. We do. But blockchain is not yet very popular in Jordan. It has not spread yet, unfortunately. I'm looking forward to it becoming more common aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Professor David Smith, uh, yes, we want more technological involvement in developing worlds. Uh, yes, blockchain is one of them, and Dr. Talib Rafal said it's not popular in Jordan. So, how actually Jordan people, their young youth communities, their corporations and academic get benefit through these social blockchain networks or this process?
Well, Sharif, the underlying root cause of your question is that in many nations, there's an underlying culture where the transparency and visibility of blockchain would undermine part of that culture. And and for example, parts of Africa, parts of the Caribbean, in other places, it's not liked because of that transparency, that visibility, because you can go back and trace transactions all the way through the blockchain. And and you see that there. Also, there is a perception of blockchain being really cryptocurrency, and the two are different. Cryptocurrency rides on top of the blockchain, but many countries in particular want to control their own currency. And because of that, a currency like a cryptocurrency, which has no national boundaries, presents challenges. I can tell you, I know just last week, our Federal Reserve Bank in the United States raised interest rates to try to keep inflation in check and to keep us out of a recession. National banks do that all the time, but national banks and a cryptocurrency built on top of blockchain take the ability to use currency to stabilize an economy, to promote what a country wants to do, is challenging with it. And I particularly think you're seeing more and more countries beginning to push back on the use of that because of the way it can be deployed. Um, there's movement for some of the big international monetary groups like the International Development Bank, World Bank, and others like that to begin to use blockchain as a way to track and view the grants they make to countries. Because there's studies that uh, look at some of the grants from those where, in many instances, as much as half of the money that was applied to solve a problem in a country ended up disappearing. And they're looking at blockchain technology as a way to do that and handle that. So the opportunities are there, but Dr. Sharif, it's a very complex problem. There's not a simple answer because it's not a technology problem, even though there are technology problems part of it. It is not a government problem, even though there's a lot of government in it. It's also a social problem, but it also has these other elements in it. And so that is where solutions that can begin to address them are hard to come by, and a lot of opportunity there for innovation and advancement. Um, and that's also those same challenges I just talked about for the base blockchain are the same type of challenges that the social media blockchain are trying to solve as well. So I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Professor David. Yes,
Can I ask a question to Dr. David? How
yes.
is blockchain not a government problem? It is a government problem, isn't it?
No, it is a government problem, uh, but it's being in many places it's being subjected up on them by other third parties. Um, Blockchain is one that brings increased transparency to what the government's doing. Just like how we talked about earlier, blockchain might be a way to take fraud out of elections just by using
Okay.
a transparent blockchain. So it is a government problem, but it's also problems in all these others. And
Yeah.
it's a place where the government's not the prime driver, but it's something that the government needs to consider. Does that make sense, Dr. Lee?
I think so. I thought that blockchain is a government issue because governments are resisting it. Some
They already,
governments are resisting.
because they don't want the transparency.
Yeah.
They don't want people to be able to track it from start to finish.
Okay. That's why they're resisting it.
That's why they're resisting it. And I can see that. One project I was involved with in one of the poorest countries in the world, and we put a blockchain in to track how the money on the project was spent. It was amazing because the people there didn't know it was on the blockchain, but to see how money got moved from one place to another to do things that had nothing to do with the project. And so it was a good use case to look at the transparency of blockchain, but also it showed that there were a lot of places where graft was happening as the transactions moved through the blockchain. And that's why governments kind of fear it, is that it exposes the internal operations. So if you look today in the press at President Putin in Russia and the amount of money he has accumulated, that based on his salary as a KGB and then as president of Russia, he's acquired a lot more wealth than those would indicate. And a lot of it is money from friends who the governments are funding coming back to him. Blockchain would make all that visible. And again, that's part of the reasons you see the resistance and pushback as well.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dr. Smith.
Yes. Dr. Talib, do you have any other questions, or we can move to the next level?
I think we can move to the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Talib, I want to know from you, especially yes, Jordan is a very good country. So, how actually uh, the Jordan education system help to encourage people to develop a knowledge-oriented society, startup developments, and this kind of things?
Governments would like to see the business starts up flourish. They would like that. But the fact is that they don't like it for social media. Social media is becoming a real issue nightmare to many people. Many people are saying that social media is responsible for their problems. But I think that it's not the social media, it's their problems. They are they are the ones that are creating their own problems.
Okay,
So I think
yes. Professor David Smith, what you want to share, what is the challenges and advantage and disadvantage social media has, like why actually like country like Jordan's uh, like they think that social media has this kind of challenges, and how uh, this kind of social media oriented corporation can overcome these situations or this environment.
Okay. A good question. Well, let's first put those social media in perspective, because the blockchain marketplace globally is about $34 billion. The social media marketplace globally is over $1 trillion. So those two of them combined, you can see there's a lot of market segment there that can be used. It's important, though, to call out, Sharif, that blockchain can be used for many other things. It can be used for manufacturing, banking, cybersecurity, smart cities, smart transportation, smart grids, Internet of Things, and others. So the blockchain part is a subset of what we're doing there. Um, what David just posted in the chat part is true. There's a role for blockchain in verifying real people, but it becomes a little bit more involved in that because you have to begin to put your identity into the blockchain, and you have to put verifications into the blockchain. Uh, and it's pretty easy to spoof identities. I had a call last night from a friend of mine who didn't have an Instagram account, and he now has an Instagram account with his picture and everything on it, and he didn't create it. And so that's a place where someone has stolen his identity to create that Instagram account. And it would be good to have a blockchain underneath that to try to figure out who did that and who tracks that. But there's a lot of ways you can still spoof that as you go. But social media, particularly for the youth, are things that help them form community and help them form community outside of their local surroundings. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen with social media globally is that it has knocked down a lot of the walls between countries. I mean, if I go back and look at my LinkedIn accounts, my Twitter accounts, my Facebook accounts, my Snapchat, my Instagram, and others, I have connections all around the world. And social media has enhanced my ability to do those. And that's what I think is for the youth. The other thing that I think, to answer your question, Shay, is in the early days of Facebook, it was mostly the youth. Now their parents and grandparents are on Facebook. And so the youth has begun to migrate to other social medias where uh, they are able to say things without their parents or grandparents being part of it. Same thing, you're seeing the difference between the way people think about activity. I can now go on liberal social media. I can now go on conservative social media. I can now go on social media that is segmented by parts of the world. Uh, Singapore has a particular social media group that in Asia is very, very popular, and I actually tried to get onto it, and they wouldn't let me get on it because my IP address is in the United States. So you begin to see applications like that too. But social media has become a building block. Uh, and it's like when I was young, we walked the neighborhood and played with kids. Today, with social media, I can communicate and play with kids from around the world and not just around my block. So it's creating a richer environment, but it also comes with things like cyberbullying. It comes with things like too much screen time. So there's good and bad with.
Thank you. Uh, Dr. Talib's, there is another response from Professor David Schumacher. Is there a role of blockchain in verifying real people from bots and other fake social media account. Uh, you are a politician and you have to engage with lot of people. Do you believe that at present situation, if as a politician you want to engage with youth communities, those who actually have lot of engagement with social media, definitely you have to use social media, or still you believe social media has to improve lot of things to overcome from this challenging situation? Because yeah.
It's the first choice, Sharif. I believe social media is a very good medium to engage with young people, to engage with anybody you want. I think Smith has just said that it takes you outside the realm of your neighborhood, makes you an international body, and it's very important to do that. Now, there are many fake things that can happen through social media, but so does any other technological part. I said this before. It took 10,000 years for fire, when it was first discovered, for us to create fireworks. And it took 9,000 years for us to have the fire people extinguishing the fire. So it's always technology, always has its bad aspects, negative aspects. But I believe that technology is good regard, and the development of technology leads us to the better. Professor Smith has just illustrated how blockchain can solve some of the problems of social media. Blockchain is a new discovery. We don't even know it in Jordan. But as a politician here in Jordan, I'm very interested in social media. I don't hate social media. I don't attack it as many people do here, because I think it's a good thing to have all all to communicate with people, to elaborate on some of the problems that they have, to understand how they're thinking. Because in social media, people say what they think they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Uh, Professor David Smith, like as we are discussing many important aspects of social media, blockchain technology, social blockchain networks, and many interesting aspects. Uh, what do you think? How we create more awareness, different level of the societies, uh, when the youth community, they have lot of engagement in internets and other things, and how we can engage more people to create awareness for this kind of topic.
Well, part of it is as we look at a blockchain-based social media, all user activities get stored in a irreversible decentralized blockchain, which is encrypted end to end. Uh, that is a big change from the centralized social media companies we have today. And this network of servers really is the elements that drive the benefits of using blockchain and social media. The greater number of servers, the greater number of users, the higher the data holding capacity the network is. But if you begin to look at some of the factors around that, uh, some of the things that have driven this growth of the social media, and with many of the new ones being built on top of blockchain, is the increased internet and smartphone penetration. The vast majority of social media today is not done on your desktop. It's done on your mobile devices. And so you see that there. You also begin to see the use of artificial intelligence brought to bear here. Social media has become a great way for business marketing and for looking at demographics and targeting demographics. The other thing that has pushed this wider spread place where marketing and social media have come together is the increased adoption of e-commerce and online shopping. The global COVID pandemic dramatically accelerated the people beginning to trust e-commerce more, and the adoption rates went very high. We're seeing more and more engaging content. For example, in my Facebook feeds, the use of video has gone up dramatically in the last couple of years. And the use of more advanced graphics and things, which enhances the engagement. Um, we're seeing more and more computational resources that we can access through, for example, things like the Microsoft Cloud, the Google Cloud, the Amazon Cloud, the Alibaba Cloud, and others that makes it easier to do this type of social networking, particularly blockchain-based social networking. But the other big thing that's happening, and why the blockchain makes a lot of sense, is that we've seen the use of advanced artificial intelligence. We've seen the use of big data because the data collected in something like a global Facebook is a lot of data. But then we've seen the fact that we can begin to use real-time analytics and begin to look at what's happening to spot trends, to spot other things like that. With some of the social media access, for example, we can spot early trends of someone who might want to commit suicide. We can spot early trends of someone who might want to do some other things with this real-time analytics. And the use of blockchain where they are immutable is going to be an add to it. And Virginia believes it's critical that we build it on blockchain. I think it's critical that we build it on maybe the next generation of blockchain and put the pieces there, because the current generation of blockchain, as we talked about earlier, still has scalability issues. It still has some security issues that have to be solved, and some others like that. But I really think it's coming there. We're seeing the places where there's new revenue models coming in place around social media, particularly social media that's built up on blockchain, so that it has the transparency to look at the exchange of monetary applications. And you see some of the social media like Facebook, Instagram, and others letting you have in-app shopping. And that's, again, that's changing the face of the social media platforms. And as you do those blockchain type technologies, distributed ledger type technologies are a natural to go in, work in those areas and to solve those problems. And like Virginia just said in what she showed, there's many startups and big companies looking to build this next generation of social media networks. And the majority of them are using some form or fashion of blockchain. And many of them are also looking at how to incorporate cryptocurrencies into this next generation of social media.
Thank you. Dr. Talib Raphael, you are from tourism industries, and the COVID-19 situation, tourism industries uh, actually face a lot of trouble because of the pandemic situation. What do you think this kind of, can you hear me? Dr. Talib, can you hear me? I cannot hear you. Professor David Smith, if you help us, like how actually tourism industries can get benefit from this kind of technology.
Well, it really can, because the whole tourist process is a process, plain and simple. And there's places where you want to have the records going forward. I just recently came back from a week in the Dominican Republic, and just looking at the things. It was really interesting. None of the places we visited in the Dominican Republic wanted cash. They all wanted electronic transactions. And like in what the comment says there, is you begin to look at utilities, things like smart contracts and others that open up new capabilities. But data has become our lifeblood. In the tourism industry, the hospitality industry is run on data. Who's booking? How many of my rooms are booked? How can I change the pricing? How many people do I need to bring extra staffing? Uh, what, how many people are going to be in my restaurants at each different time and things. So the ability to take that take that big data and put it in place in a blockchain, it should be helpful because that type of information, you need the extra data security because it can be exploited. And you're going to run algorithms against it. And particularly in hospitality, there is a fair amount of bias as you look at the algorithms running at that area. And hopefully over time, the blockchains can help create some of that bias out. And we're also seeing in hospitality industry that the larger the centralized services are, the easier they are to hack. And so again, hospitality today has become very much small independents, but driven by larger uh, corporations trying to drive that type of hospitality industry. And in my holding company, we're actually looking at how to bring a next generation of artificial intelligence into the hospitality industry that can provide more real-time interaction, not just based on the data that's there, but in the hospitality industry, it's increasingly going to more sensors. I can put facial recognition cameras in the halls and the lobbies. I can put sensors to measure people's temperature to see if they have an infection. I can put sensors everywhere to understand, are they going to this part of the resort or not? And all of that has to come back and be managed as data and analytics run against it. And blockchain can bring part of it back to there. Uh, Now, blockchain with social media again, what blockchain's trying to do in social media is address the two underlying um, really shortcomings of centralized social media, and that is transparency and data security. So blockchain's peer-to-peer architecture helps the users maintain higher accountability in their actions over the internet. And the same in hotels and commercial companies and governments as well. Uh, Users cannot access that information stored in decentralized blockchain without being identified with some type of authorization or others. And so it means it's harder to do it. Uh, there's the belief, and I'm not sold on this yet, that the decentralized networks like blockchain can address fake content, spam, and fraudulent ads. Um, the industry is trying to restructure their data to address those problems, but blockchain might be part of that. Smart contracts might be part of that. The ability to have transportable user personifications across multiple blockchains that are checked and balanced, which means multiple social networks, all can be used to address those problems. So, Chief, I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Professor. Dr. Talib Rafal, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Yes.
hear you.
Yes. Sir, we are actually discussing about the tourism industries, and Professor David Smith uh, give us some guideline that how blockchain technology can help the tourism industries. So, uh, what is the future actually these tourism industries? Do you think after this COVID-19 situations, tourism industries can um, like get the previous situations, or what will be the future for
Well,
this industry?
tourism is already bouncing back after COVID. It's already bouncing. And blockchain is the only hope that the tourism industry has. Blockchain is there to stay, for sure. We had a meeting in Dubai a few months ago on blockchain and tourism industry, and it was all agreed upon that tourism and hospitality industry in particular are very much dependent on blockchain and cryptocurrency in particular to pay money. Now, what Professor Smith seen in Dominican Republic is being emulated in many parts of the world. Switzerland, for example, Dubai, they've adopted blockchain and cryptocurrencies as a major way of paying and settling bills. Now, I believe that the tourism industry will depend more and more on blockchain as we go along. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. What's the concluding remarks for today's session?
Well, Sharif, you always pick good topics, and this is another one. Uh, Blockchain and social media is growing. Uh, there's still the challenges we've talked about. One of the big challenges with blockchain and social media, and actually in the hospitality industry and others, as I said at the start of this program, is scalability. Uh, Blockchains are slow. They have limits to the amount of data they can store because they're peer to peer. So for many applications, we have to go to another generation of blockchain that is scalable and store a lot of data. The other challenge with social media blockchain is these fake identities, these bots and other things are a challenge in traditional social media and in blockchain social media. Because in a blockchain social network, if you can get bots identified as though they're real humans, they can offer the reward system. And because they can offer the reward system, they can extract value from the platform, either data or money or both of them. Other thing with blockchain, and you see this with cryptocurrency, is uh, you've heard about the challenges of crypto mining, while blockchains also do blockchain mining. So you have servers requiring a lot of power, a lot of internet. So that's one of the challenges that has to be solved for social media blockchain to be able to grow to handle the very large networks uh, of the traditional centralized social media. And it needs a new way of training. So going back to where we often talk about is what's needed in education and what the government can do. They need to encourage the type of knowledge and practical training to use this new technology because it is different. The centralized versus the distributed with a distributed ledger that doesn't scale well, that the hardware needs to constantly increase. Uh, I'm seeing miners on blockchain having to upgrade their hardware every year instead of every 3 to 5 years, which is the norm in some of the larger centralized systems. Those are going to be some of the challenges I have to deal with. But there are many, many new opportunities there. There's the ability to build from scratch. There's the ability to take an existing blockchain and put social media on top of it and to make it as a social media app builder, which I think is going to be one of the big opportunities coming up. But as Dr. Tlaib says, blockchain is here to stay. Uh, the technology needs to evolve to the next generation, but it's technology that fills a very needed place within the community, and I believe it's here to stay. And social media can benefit from the use of blockchain once blockchain solves some of the underlying issues. So, Sharif, I hope that helps.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Talib Rafal, yes, what's your concluding remarks for today's session?
I don't want to add anything to what Dr. Smith just said. I think he's absolutely correct, especially when the relationship between blockchain and tourism, hospitality industry. 100% agree with him. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is an excellent session, and I want to give a special thanks to Dr. Talib Rafael and Professor David Smith for your excellent contribution for today's session. I believe our audience also enjoy a lot uh, uh, today's sessions, and they actually come up with a lot of comments and information. So this is the things World Talent Economy Forums. We are trying to develop a really knowledge-based and knowledge-oriented society with the help of developed worlds, and this is the way we can minimize the gap in between developed world and developing nations. We encourage the youth community to involve with more modern science, engineering, and technology, and doing more research, and that's why uh, we are organizing these things. We have our summit and conference next year. Nikola Tesla Technology Conference. We are launching our innovation lab, country like Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. So hopefully, through this process, we can enhance the capacity of the youth community. Thank you everyone for support World Talent Economy Forum, and I request all of our audience to share our content with your government agencies, with corporations and academy. And we just finished our 603 episode. Hopefully, with your support and everything, we can do more interesting dialogue uh, for our developing nations. And this is like an open source mode, so anybody can join, and it's 100% free. So the youth community, if you need any kind of advice and guidelines, I'm sure Dr. Talib Rafael, Professor David Smith, and all of the speakers will support our youth community. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. Thank you, bye bye, and take care.
Take care.